Welcome, everybody. This is Karen here, your favorite virtual assistant. I'm excited here for another live that I'm having today. Happy Wednesday. I hope everybody's having a phenomenal day. So today's live is titled "Letting Go to Level Up: The Power of Delegation." But before I start, let me make sure that I'm actually connected everywhere because the internet does its own thing. Um, okay, guys, let me make sure that I'm good so we can get the ball rolling. Okay, and then we get to go. Sorry, guys. Okay, so yes, I am good and rolling. Okay, delegation. But before I get into that delegation, um, I do want to say that I think delegation is hard for a lot of people, and it was hard for myself too, and it's still kind of hard to be honest with you, right? But delegation is one of those tasks that I feel that it comes from the idea of not wanting to let go, like a control thing. And the reason why I say that is because it's the idea that nobody could do things the way we do things, right? The way you do things. Oh, I do this way, so I know nobody's gonna be able to do it the way I do it. This is why, to me, and this is why I say it comes from a place of control, because if you let somebody else do it, the assumption will be that it won't be done as effective as you do it, right? But I beg to differ, and I would ask, how do you know that the way you're doing things is the best way, right? How do you know if you delegate a task to someone else to do, or they won't be able to do it exactly, not to your the way you do it, obviously, because nobody does things to our degree, to your own degree of the way you do things. But how do you know that giving that person that task to do, they won't be able to do it more effectively or find a better way of doing things? Okay, that is something that I think it would be good to ask, because a lot of us challenge is that, right, that aspect of allowing somebody else to do something because we will assume that that person won't be able to do it to the perfection that you do it. Or when I say you, I mean yourself, including myself in this as well. So that's just something that I wanted to put out there because it's something to think about. Something to think about. What is the reason you're not delegating tasks? What is the reason that you holding on to doing everything yourself? Right? A lot of it is come from a place of control. A lot of it does come from a place of they won't be able to do it the way I do it. And I have done that. I've been there. To a certain level degree, I'm still there. Not even probably, I'm still there. But I always have to tell myself, I'd rather have my time do something else than spending an hour doing something that it's going to cause me a headache and I don't enjoy doing. So let's go into the topic. What is delegation? Let's start with that. Delegation is assigning a task uh, as an authority figure or leader to someone else to do, right? But a little bit more than that, delegation is also a way of allowing empowering somebody else, right? Um, a delegation is also giving the ability to provide somebody accountability for a particular task. Delegation is something that is not just for business or work. Delegation is something that could be used even in your personal life, right? Even if you have small children, you can assign a child to do a task based on their age range, right? Based on that child's capability of doing things, right? So delegation is one of those things that you anybody could do. It's something that it's around, it's everyday use for business, for life, for everything. So first, let's go into what is the benefits of delegation, right? What do you get from that? Like, what is the purpose of that? Like, what's the importance of that, right? Um, Let me go here, guys. Let me welcome everybody. Okay. What is the purpose of delegating? What is the importance of it? So the first reason that delegation is important is because it gives you the time and energy to focus on other things. And essentially that's what it is. It gives you the time and energy to focus on other things. Because if you have your hand full with so many things in one day, how are you able to do other things that could benefit you, your business, your life, right? How can that be possible? You're only one person, right? This is another, right? How is that even it's not even, it doesn't even make sense to think that if you're doing 10 things or 20 things in that one day, how can you put time for yourself, right? How can you put time for your family? How can you put time for your business? How can you put time for studying if you're studying? How can you, like, that's essentially the reason. It's something that saves you time and energy, right? To focus on other things that you want to do. Okay. The second benefit of delegation is encourage creativity and develop skills within your team members, right? So when somebody feels empowered and somebody feels confident in doing a particular task, that develops that person to maybe even do it in a better, effective way, right? It provides the person the ability to show up for you, to show up for the job, to show up in a lighter, in a more happier way. It's not a, it's a stress-free situation for the person, right? So that's what delegation does. You're empowering someone to essentially to do something, right? By training them, by taking the time to teach them how to do something if they don't know how to do something, if it's their first time of doing something, right? So that's essentially it allows a space for creativity. The third reason is you, and which goes to number two, which you're empowering the person. You're empowering the person to know that you trust them, right? You're empowering the person to know that you believe in what they do and you believe in their capabilities, right? So that's another, the third point, the third benefit, I should say, of delegation. The next one is it builds trust, communication, right? Open communication, accountability, and engages, and allow people to engage with you, right? Because if somebody have a question about something, if somebody don't understand what they're doing, right? And the more everybody, as the true, the saying goes, the more you do a task, the more confident you feel of doing that particular task. But also that comes along with the person that's delegating the task or assigning the task to that person, right? Because if you take the time to show the person how to do a certain task, right, and allow the space for questioning, for question, not questioning, questions, and allow the space for open communication, right? That person will feel comfortable, will feel happy to do it, will feel empowered that they're able to do a task and do it great and do it, you know, and be, as the more they do the task, they feel excellent at doing something, right? So I also would say the last part is it creates a positive environment. It creates an environment where, you know, it's stress free. You don't feel the person does not feel restrained. The person does not feel anxiety. The person, whether it's at home or whatever the environment is, that's what delegation is, delegating properly, right? um, Create. It creates an environment, a happy environment, right? An empowerment environment. Um, so these are the five benefits of delegating. There's more obviously, but these are the five that I found based on my experience with delegation, based on my experience professionally with delegation. And then I want to also go into a little bit on the common challenges that most individuals face when it comes to delegation, and also want to give a little bit of along with the challenges, I also want to give a little bit of practical example or suggestions how this could be done better, or a better way, just an open-minded conversation about delegation. The common challenges is not communicating effectively, right? Not being able to explain the task at hand, not being able to um, the expectations, communicate your expectations, not being able to provide a deadline if there's a deadline involved, right? So those lack of communication is on the person that's assigning the delegate, the person that's giving the delegation. Because if you're not able to communicate effectively, then you cannot expect the person to understand what it is you're trying to convey. You cannot expect the person to understand what it is you want. So that's part of it, right? Also being able to communicate very well what it is you want, what it is you're requesting, your standard of doing things, what are you looking for. All those things matter when it comes to delegating. Communication is key, not just the verbal part of it, but also the non-verbal part of it, right? How make sure you don't sound annoying when you give those tasks or those explanations. Make sure your body language does not speak annoyance. Your body language speaks to welcoming, right? Excuse me. Your body language speaks to openness, right? So those things are very important. Not just the things that we say, but also our body. That's also is part of communicating as well. The second thing would be micromanaging. Listen, micromanaging creates an environment of stress. Micromanage create an environment of anxiety. Micromanaging creates an environment where nobody want to work with you. That's reality, what it is. Okay, so if you're a person who like to stand over and pay attention or watch a person work, right, or you're a person that always feel that you have to be on top of people without allowing the person to figure things out, without allowing the person to, to make an error, because there will be mistakes done as tasks are being performed, especially if it's the first time. You cannot expect somebody to do something 100% if it's their first time doing this. Okay, so if you're trusting a person with a task, please do not micromanage that person. Allow that person to figure things out. Trust the person enough that you assign that task, right? To figure it out, do it on their own, especially after you provided a certain amount of training. You have to allow that person to work, right? Stress free, with knowing that you have to, because there's going to be a situation where nobody want to work with you, where nobody want to cares to even be bothered with you. I mean, nobody likes to be micromanaged. I mean, that's reality. I don't know if y'all know that, but that's true. Okay. The last one is management and attention gap. What do I mean by that? That means that you give a task to the person and you don't even come back and check how things are going. You don't even the next day maybe you come back and say, "Hey, did the task was done already?" How do you know the person don't have any questions? How do you know the person maybe stuck somewhere or not sure somewhere? Right? So that's what I mean by a management and attention gap. Just providing a task, don't follow up, okay? Don't provide any resources or question or allow the person to ask questions. Just give and ghost. You know, post and ghost? Yeah, you give the task and you ghosting. You don't even give the time for questions. Right? You don't even come around and check how things are going with the person. Right? Maybe you could provide some feedback in the process of the person doing the task. That's another thing that I have noticed, that is one of the challenges that some people are having with delegation. Okay. The last one I would say is training. That's one of the things that I think people, especially when it comes to some business owners, especially my profession as a virtual assistant, one of the things that I have noticed is for you to have a person on your team, right? A person who's effective, a person that could be helpful to you, a person that understands what you're doing, understand your vision. You have to take the time to train the person. You have to. Okay, you have to be welcoming enough to provide. If the person is essentially part of your team, you have to bring them in. You have to make that they, just bring them in, make them feel welcome, make them feel loved, make them feel like, if they have any questions, they can ask questions. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that, but that's just the biggest thing. Providing training. The training provides an ability for the person to be innovative in your team, right? Come up with bright ideas in your team, be engaging in your team, right? So if you want somebody on your team who could provide those things, then you have to take the time, because it is time consumption to train somebody. It is. I'm not going to lie to you. It is time consumption, right? It takes a lot of time to train somebody, to sit up there and explain somebody's certain tasks. I get it, because I have done it. But I came to realize the more I take time to train this person, the more better that person will be to help me, help the court, help the business, right? And help themselves ultimately, because they're learning a skill, right? So That's the whole goal of training someone. So I want to go. I also want to provide you guys 8 practical tips that you can actually implement today. These are tips that I have learned, right, through my own assessment, through my own learning of uh, through my career. You know, when I was a supervisor at a site, I had to learn quickly. I didn't even know what delegation was, to be honest. I just did it because I want to do everything myself. Initially, that's what I wanted to do. So I'm gonna do everything myself. I was so excited. I would do everything myself. Honey, give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks after, I was like, oh no, I'm not doing this myself. I need everybody to help me. So I started giving people tasks based on what I thought. You know, it's an error. It's a trial and error thing. You know, eventually I figure it out. But I wanted to share 8 practical tips that you could do right now, right? That you can help and assess what you're doing with your team. And maybe it could be better for you. You know, better for your team. So the first one is write down all your to-do list, all the tasks that you have throughout the day, from the lowest level tasks to the highest level tasks. Write them down in a piece of paper. Write them down. Or the tasks that you don't care to do. Let's start with that. The tasks that you don't want to do, the tasks that's time consuming for you, right? Write everything down that you feel like, okay, I don't want to do this. I'm gonna write this down. I prefer somebody else doing this. I'm gonna write those tasks down. The second part to that is choose the right person for that. And what do I mean by that? Oh, Karen, how do I choose the right person for the task? I'm gonna tell you right now. All right. So the way you choose the right person to the task is based on a person's experience, right? Based on a person's skill. Okay. And I'm looking down because I wrote this stuff down. All right, Sparrow, and based on the workload that the person is already assigning, the workload you're assigning to the person. So if you're assigning them a whole lot of tasks in a day and you know they might not be able to complete in one day, depending on the task, maybe you shouldn't assign them to that, right? Um, so this is how you would select the task for a person based on the person personality. You could go as far as the person personality, right? If a person personality speaks to being more social, maybe you could put them as a customer service person, or maybe you could put them as a social media management, or to somebody who's responsible for your social media, whatever, right? So the task should be done in best person's skill, expertise. If you want to go further into the person's personality, you can also include that as well as who you want to assign the task to. And the lastly would be based on the person's workload that they already have assigned, that you're going to assign to them, or they already have currently going on, I should say, right? So these are the four ways to identify who to assign a task to. Okay, because if a person is great at something, why would you give them something that they don't care to do, or you know that they hate to do? When you know somebody else that's they love to do that and they have the skill and the training to do it, you get somebody who you know love doing that. It saves you the headache. You save the person the headache. Everybody's happy. Okay. So the third tip is clear communication. Right. With first, the purpose of communication, it gives you set your expectations. Okay, you set your quality of standard of work that you're looking for. If there's a deadline, you have to communicate the deadline. Okay, um, and it helps ensure that the task, and also helps ensure that the task is completed with satisfaction. Okay, so essentially, this is what communication does. It gives the space for these things. For there's no confusion. It's clarity. Everybody know what they're doing. Everybody know what to expect to do. Because one thing is true: if some people don't know what their expectation is, they're gonna do things based on how they want to do it, and not based on how you want things to be done. So it's very, very, very important for you to have very clear communication when it comes to delegation. Okay, the last one is provide resource and support, right? That could be from training, that could be from access to the necessary files or computer system or softwares, right? Or any other relevant thing or information that you think the person might need, right? So this is how you provide resources and support. The five is delegate authority, not just a task. What do I mean by delegate authority and not just a task? Okay, so when you delegate tasks, okay, you delegate the authority needed to complete the task. Let me repeat that again, so in case you didn't catch that. Okay, when delegating tasks, delegate the authority needed to complete the task. That what that means is empowering the individual to make decisions and take action necessary to complete the task. That means that if the person is doing a particular task, that an action is needed based on the task, you make the person feel comfortable enough to take an action, right? That they think or that they know that it will be more efficient to do something. It will be less time consuming to do something. Okay, because the whole purpose as an authority leader is to and motivate and empower your team for excellence. Okay, that is the whole purpose of being a great leader. You motivate your team, right? Because you empower them to be excellent, not just for you, but for themselves, more importantly. Not just for your company, but for themselves, more importantly. Because if a person feels confident in who they are and the task that they're doing, trust me, I guarantee you're going to get a whole lot more from the person. If the person does not feel empowered, if the person feels like they're always being second guessed, that you always second guessing them, you will not get the max out of nobody. Because nobody wants to feel like what they know or they knowledge that they know is being questioned. Especially if they know this is what they good at. This is what they know how to do. So you have to allow the space for the person to make necessary decisions, right? And I always say, have that communication with the person. Communication is everything, right? If you feel that the person might make a certain necessary decision based on the task that they're doing, right? Have the communication. Are you giving them the green light to do that? Are you not giving them the green light to do that? You know, communication clears a lot of confusion. Okay. So point number 6 is set up for checkpoints, right? Come throughout the day. See how they doing. Hey, do you need any help? Hey, are you okay with the task? Hey, any way that I can support you? Any way that I can help you? To have follow, set up with checkpoints. Follow up with the person just to ensure that they're actually okay in the process of doing the task. Okay, the next one I would say follow up. After the task is completed, I would say follow up with the person just to see where they're at. Just to say, hey, how do you feel doing this task? Do you feel comfortable? Did you enjoy it? What did you learn from it? And provide feedback. If you know the person could do something a little better, provide them feedback. Let them know, hey, you did great, but this is something I think that could be done a little better. There's nothing wrong with giving feedback in a positive. I repeat it again. There's nothing wrong with giving feedback in a positive way to someone. Okay, because criticism is helpful to grow. Criticism is helpful to do better at something, to be better at something, right? So always provide feedback in a positive way. Follow up with the person just to see where they are mentally. Did they enjoy the task? Do they need, whatever did they find difficult in? Whatever did they enjoy? Whatever they didn't enjoy? How can you make the experience better for them? Because if you invite a place of welcoming, the person will feel comfortable enough to come to you, right? And the person will feel comfortable enough to come to just be free of who they are, be authentically who they are. So this is why it's important to create an environment welcoming. You know what I'm saying? Welcoming. And the last one is, what did you learn from the experience? All right, assess what did you learn. Okay, go through your run down to the process, right? What did you learn? What can you do better next time? Okay, what are some things that maybe you could improve on? Just your leadership skills, maybe the way you communicate things, maybe the way you explain things. Maybe you're not good at training, but somebody else is good at training. Right? Maybe somebody else is good at training, but maybe that's not your gift, but somebody else is better at it. And I think that's something to think about as well. A lot of people assume, most people assume that you have to be the one, if you're the business owner or the manager or whatever, you know, title you have, that you have to be the one to train. No, you don't have to be the one to train if you know that's not your gift. If you know you're not good at training, if you know you don't have the patience to train somebody, let somebody else do it. Or create an SOP system so the person could follow up on their own. And if they have any questions, they could come and ask you. Okay. So the last one is to learn from the experience. Assess, what did you learn? What can you do better? Okay, because assessing will help with the improvement. And the better you improve, the better you get at delegating. Okay. But in closing, I do want to ask you, I do want to send you off with 4 questions just to give you guys something to think about before this live close for the night. First question is, what are the tasks you need to delegate? Right? What are those tasks that you need to delegate? Write them down, make a list. The second question is, what are the costs for delegating those tasks? Right? What is the price of that? Okay. Would it be, how much would it cost for you to do it? How much would it cost for you to outsource that task? Right. So let's say, for example, if it costs you, let's say $600 to outsource that job, right? Or delegate to, or outsource it or delegate to somebody else to do, right? But if you know, and it takes you, let's say, 2 hours to do a particular task, right? If you know that it takes you 2 hours to delegate that, to do a particular task, but you pay either outsourcing it or delegating to somebody else, it costs you $600. You have to think, what are you getting back by outsourcing it to somebody else? Right? Let's say you get back time. Let's say you get back clients. If those 2 hours, if you could make, let's say $2,500, right, and that source it will cost you $600. Will you not outsource that job when you can make that money during that time? Right? Imagine what you could do in 2 hours just by outsourcing the task to somebody else to do. Right? For me, I respect my time. So if something's gonna take me longer to do, I'd rather just hand it off to somebody else to do. I'm not gonna spend 2, 3 hours doing something. I'd rather have somebody else do it because I figure for me, I could spend my time doing something else. So the third question is, what is the value of that time? Right? Came to what I just mentioned. If you know doing a task, outsourcing a task costs you $600, and it takes you, they say it takes you 2 hours to do a task, and outsourcing costs you $600. What in those 2 hours, if you could make $2,500 or more, would it be worth it to you to outsource that job? Because that's really how you have to look at it. You can't be trading money for time because you never get back your time. But we can always make money. Okay. And the last one is, um, I'm saving. What are you saving for delegating that task, right? Okay, what is the value of the time are you saving for delegating that task? That's the last one. I'm sorry. What is the value of the time that you saving for delegating that task to somebody else? So it's all about considering what is more valuable to you, what you find more important in your time, right? I know delegating sometimes to a lot of us it could be a stressful matter, but if you could trade time, right? Take the time for yourself, take the time for things that you love, take the time to for your family, for your business to make more money. Um, would you not do it? I mean, I think that's something the question that you gotta ask yourself, right? So in closing, guys, thank you for watching today. I do appreciate all of you. And if you need any assistance with delegation or you need any assistance at all, do connect with me. Um, or follow me on LinkedIn. I am a virtual assistant. I do have virtual assistant content. Follow me in on this platform here linked on LinkedIn. And have a beautiful night. And you guys take care. Bye, guys.